All right, 6 o'clock, we'll call the meeting to order. All members are present except for Cheryl and Jacob. We'll start it off. I'm going to rearrange the agenda just a little bit. We're going to start off with the FFA check acceptance.
Sure.
Frida, come on up.
All right, I'm the president of the FFA alumni, and I have two checks here for you. One is for the electricity for the plot. Wonderful. $150. And the other one is for the water permit.
Yeah.
That's also for $150. Thank you very much.
Thank
And
you.
hopefully you'll be also seeing our new irrigation system. But I mean, it depends on the weather.
Yep, exactly.
And it's supposed to be able to run.
Great.
So
Thank you for that. We'll,
Appreciate
well, that'll be formally accepted and acknowledged at the next board meeting. So thank you so much.
thank you.
Great, absolutely. All right.
All right, move on to communication items.
Okay. Right, so we'll start by inviting Mrs. Akerson up to hear a little bit about what's happening in the elementary school. Can I have somebody grab the door? Thank you. Appreciate that.
Good evening. We have lots happening in March. We recently wrapped up our winter conferences at the end of February, where we had over 96% of our families attend, meeting with our teachers and staff to learn about the progress of their children. And so thank you to families for making that a priority and coming out to winter conferences at the elementary school. March is Music in Our Schools month, so we have a fun and creative March Madness bracket of top songs that the students listen to music clips and they vote on the top song, and so they kind of similar to March Madness with basketball, have some fun around that with music. So thank you to our staff for bringing that kind of fun activity for all of our students to participate in. March is also our food drive month, and as you can see, we have a jam-packed month filled with bringing in food items, and each week has a different focus. This week is breakfast, and then next week is peanut butter and jelly, and the following week, which is our last week, is canned items. And each week we have a dress up day where students are encouraged to bring in cash donations to our local food shelf, where they can dress up if they choose to. And of course, this is optional, but just add some fun around our food shelf and our food drive. Coming to Paynesville, I quickly learned this is a big deal for our community, and it's so fun that everybody pulls together to provide the food items for our local community. Looking at our February Bulldog Spotlight recipients, the students pictured here and mentioned have been mindful, connected, and respectful throughout the month of February. So again, their picture will go in the paper and social media as well, recognizing our students for February. We recently had kindergarten open house and registration. We had over 56 students attend registration night. That was last Thursday. The cafeteria was filled with lots of energy from the class of 2038 who attended, and we did a short presentation on what you can expect in kindergarten. Families got to tour the classrooms and meet the teachers, and students went away with some little goodies along each stop. So that was great, and I just want to reiterate, if people plan on attending here in Paynesville for kindergarten, to get those registration forms turned in ASAP, as those are critical for our planning stages here. So just thank you to families for coming on out. That was over 10 families more than we had last year. So it was a great turnout. Also want to recognize Mrs. Tony Shea, our elementary school social worker, for her dedication in serving our students. Last week was Minnesota School Social Work Week to recognize the work that she does serving over 60 students in varying capacities, small group, whole group, individually, helping students all throughout. And then looking ahead, it's hard to believe we are wrapping up third quarter already, which I want to make sure that families look at our calendar as we have some important dates coming up around that time frame, quarter break day and such. Questions or anything from me?
Great, thank you,
Okay,
Mrs. Akerson. And then we'll hear from Mr. Rasmussen, what's happening at the secondary level.
Good evening, everybody. So, like Mrs. Akerson touched on, we had spring conferences. It was just a great opportunity for us to connect with parents and connect with families and have people in the building. It was nice to see people in the building, so I want to thank families who made the effort to come here and to stop in and to talk to teachers and check in. So it was great to see you. March is the food drive month here, and we have our Bulldogs Give Back food drive. And so we are excited to have a food drive that supports our local community center and to get kids donating food for our local food shelf. So there's a lot going on with this. There's a raffle that our two student councils, middle school and high school student councils, have kind of devised as a way to incentivize students to help out with the food drive. So we're excited for that. Today we had 8th grade Ag Day, and we had and if you scroll down a little more, there's some pictures there. We had lots of really cool learning opportunities. People from sort of all over central Minnesota come in to provide unique opportunities to our agriculture students or to all of our 8th grade students. And so some of the people that were here was, we had a member from the DNR who was talking about fisheries and restocking fisheries. We had FFA members doing some teamwork and leadership work. We had nutrient ag solutions, going through some agricultural learning there. We had a group come in to do some floral design stuff. We had McDowell come in and they got to actually build toolboxes out of ductwork, how they actually put together ductwork. So got to talk to them about that. And then we had Ridgewater come in and show some opportunities there. So just a really cool learning experience for our 8th grade students. And I appreciate the work of Natalie Utsch and the FFA group for putting that on. I know it's a big lift every year, but just kind of a really cool thing that our students get to experience. So looking forward here, we do Student Reach is a group in Minnesota that brings motivational speakers to schools, and Student Reach reached out to us and asked us if we wanted to host a speaker. And so the speaker that they're bringing around this year is Brad Hertig. I think I'm pronouncing his name correctly, and he'll be here on March 19th, and I'm really excited for him to be here. So his story is he is a double amputee. He had both of his arms amputated in a work accident. And he continued to play, this was in high school, and he continued to play high school football, and he had a coach. That's where he gets the name Find a Way. So he had a coach that kind of encouraged him to move past his amputee and find a way to still contribute. So it connects with our PBIS and secondary core value resilience. So I'm excited to have him come in and talk about his resilience and his story. So.
What grades get to see that? Is it just high school or is it middle school too?
It's both. So high school will be in the morning. We're actually going to do 2 assemblies. High school will go in the morning, and then middle school will go right after. So the whole building will get a chance to see him. Yeah, a student would be really thankful for Student Reach who does this. I know a lot of schools around here, they come. I know Corey does it. And so excited that they reached out to us and provide these opportunities for our students.
All right. Well, thank you, Mr. Rasmussen.
Thank you.
All right. So I'm going to invite up Mr. Hendrickson, and let's get an update on our activities. What's been going on in the activity world?
Good to see everyone again. We're currently transitioning from the winter season into the spring season for activities, and by the feel of the weather today, feels like it's about mid-May. But our activities that we're rolling into are speech, softball, baseball, boys and girls golf, boys and girls track and field, trap shooting, and then tonight we have a 9th through 12 choir concert, and then next Monday we have a 6th through 12 band concert. So I know some of our practices were able to get outside right away today. I saw them running around outside, and I talked to our softball coach. He said they're going outside right away to take fly balls, and so weather was, how was it?
Windy.
Windy?
It was okay.
It was okay. Sure beats being inside, right? But again, thankfully we have the pack, so when we have those cooler days that are gonna be coming up ahead a little bit, that we can stay inside. So winter season is a long one. We definitely appreciate our crowds that get to all of our events regularly. There are about 35 of those throughout the season with all the different sports that we've had. And we had to change over to the huddle screening, had a couple little hiccups along the way, and it was kind of a time consumer for me at the beginning, especially the transitioning from the fall to the winter season. We just had a lot of things that we're trying to go through. So chewed up a lot of time, but eventually we got it going a lot more smoothly. And really want to extend my appreciation for all of our athletes and coaches and participants and everything that they do throughout the winter season. It is a grind from November through March. Congratulations to Tyson Maher, Jameson Maher, Roman Roberg, and Peyton Hemish on making it to the state wrestling tournament. I was able to get down there on Saturday. It was a phenomenal crowd at the Excellent Energy Center to support all of our wrestlers, so it was a really cool experience. And then actually Madison McNabb was able to sing the national anthem in front of the crowd on February 28th, so that was that Friday. There was a form that the State High School League had sent out to me, and I passed it along to our choir teacher and got to Madison McNabb, and she helped fill it out with me and got it sent in, and sure enough, she was able to sing, and she showed me the video. She was out there in front of the whole entire Excel Energy Center by herself in the middle of all the mats, singing away. So it was a really cool moment. So I've been getting a lot of emails and conversations about spring schedules recently since we're transitioning. So I just really encourage our families to check online. I'm getting those schedules on there as quickly as I can, trying to find those dates for track and field and golf and junior high golf and all those things, trying to get all those things added on there. So please check there. If you need to get registered, just go through Infinite Campus, go through the parent portal and get registered that way. And then we add all those names to a spreadsheet so we know who's all in what sport. And then once the season comes, we'll know who is paid and who is not paid and who has not filled out their forms and everything. So again, really encourage everybody to check those online schedules. And if you do have a question, feel free to reach out to me or to our coaches. So, last couple things here. If anybody's interested in being an umpire, I know this is kind of my time of the year to throw that pitch out there. It did work last year. We had a couple of people reach out to help, but even if you can work 1 or 2, 3 games, many hands make for light work. So if everybody can help grab a hold of that rope and pull, and we can get those games covered so our coaches aren't having to coach and umpire. So I'll get those games covered as soon as I can. I spent most of the last 3 days, Thursday, Friday, and today, filling out our winter vouchers for all of our workers. So that was between our workers and our coaches, that was 56 vouchers I filled out. And then most of them are people who work multiple events. So we have to categorize all those things differently too, because they get budgeted from different accounts. So now I can move on with that and take a deep sigh of relief. And then I just want to throw out a shout out to our Paynesville Motor and Transfer for all the busing things that they cover. And so a lot of times it's on short notice too, or think of some of the events that we have where they're leaving at 5:30 in the morning and spending all day down at a meet or a game or whatever it is. So really appreciate all the things that they do for us. So with that, I'll open it up. Anybody have any questions?
I guess I don't know what involvement you had on this weekend, but they had a JO volleyball. I don't know, the coaches, I don't want to miss a coach, but the janitors, custodians that were working, I need the janitor ain't the right word, but that was tremendous. First time I was ever at something like that. I know Bruce was there. That was just amazing. They did a heck of a job.
And that was our JO youth program.
Yeah.
So it wasn't part of the high school program, but I would say that our custodial workers and our staff have really done a nice job at the PAC, making that accessible for our community. And it really is, it's again, another, it's an asset to our community. So that's really cool. Good. All right, thank you, Rick, appreciate it. And we'll invite up Mrs. O'Brien for our community education update.
All right, good evening, everyone. So community ed, we are focusing on the new catalog and trying to get that done. So I'm finishing that up. That is going to go to the printer this week. And it will have our spring and summer offerings. So in our PAUSE program, our summer PAUSE program has 70 students registered at this point. We'll be looking at filling in some of the staff needs that we have, and also putting together our new training program for all staff. So we're busy working on that. Early childhood, we are offering an April and May session in early childhood family education. And we're also, Big Truck Night is coming up, so that's a big deal with the kids. We're gonna host that at the elementary school this year. We just were approved by the city to be able to block off a part of the street by Gazebo Park, so we can have the vehicles on the street, block it off, people can go play on the playground, they can look at trucks, they can go to Gazebo Park, so it will be, hopefully we'll have a great day, a nice day for that. But that is coming up. That's usually our big final finale for the parents and kids. It's a fun night. We're also just, we're finishing up some fundraising efforts with the early childhood playground. We'll be focusing now on the community build and getting that organized and put together. So that again is on June 23rd that we'll be getting that built. Preschool, we hosted registration information night on March 6th along with the kindergarten program. We didn't have as big a turnout, but we had about a dozen families that came in to find out about our preschool, our offerings, what's available, meet the teachers, see the classrooms. We are right now going through early bird registrations with our current families, the families that are currently registered for preschool, our 3-year-old families, and any children that might be staying in our 4-year-old. So they're going through early bird registration right now, and then it opens to the public March 17th. So people are chomping at the bit to get into preschool. And we just talked about the PAC where spring sports will be starting and they'll be using the space. Winter market will be on the 15th. So if you're looking for some of that farmer's market stuff, you can come on the 15th, 9 to noon. We just hosted the volleyball tournament. There were 56 teams, lots of not very many parking spots left. Yeah, it's usually a large event and they did a nice job of running it. We have an upcoming wrestling tournament. I forgot the date, so that's why it's not on there, but it's coming up soon, along with the annual talent show. That is on the 29th of March. And that is at 2:00. It was at first advertised at 1, but they have moved it back an hour. So it is at 2:00 if you're looking. And then finally, we are just waiting to get started on our meeting on discussing our childcare issues and bringing childcare to our community. So that's coming up in April. That's what I'm looking at next, and I'll be interested in hearing that conversations. That's it. Any questions?
All right. Thank you. All right. Mrs. Michaelis, come on up, and I think I'll formally introduce you because I don't know that you've been with the board before. So Leah Michaelis, our technology coordinator, and I wanted to just invite her to give you an update of what's happening technology-wise. So just as a reminder, when Jonah transitioned, we've gone through some different two transitions to Wilmer. We have gone through a couple of different processes to try to find the right fit for our technology support. And I'm going to embarrass you well, I don't know if I'll embarrass you or not, but I'm going to just sing your praises for a minute because Leah has just really come in. We hired her initially as a support staff. And when Leah kind of came on board, it was very clear that she kind of got it and she clicked and things have been learning and growing. And I'm super excited to hear how you have kind of identified some of the needs of our technology department and what's happening. So welcome to the board meeting. And if you wouldn't mind, just kind of share what's happening in the technology department.
Thank you. Yes, so for a technology department update, I'll just highlight some of the key initiatives that we're focusing on. Enhancing digital learning environments, the aviation program and technology upgrades have been a big priority lately. We have one-on-one device initiative. We are now K through 12, one-to-one for devices. Artificial intelligence in education, this is a big subject everywhere. And recently the teachers had a AI training that went really well. I thought it was very interesting. I heard a lot of really good feedback on that. Cybersecurity and data privacy, that is huge for us. We want to protect the students and the staff. So we utilize advanced security tools. We do regular security audits and trainings, and we follow all compliance and regulations. Our IT infrastructure and connectivity, we are always looking to optimize our software and systems because that helps with cybersecurity. Everything that we can keep up to date is going to make it safer for all of us. And also we are working on a sustainable device refresh plan so that the staff and the students get a fresh cycle for devices. And then promoting digital equity and inclusion. Our goal is that technology should be accessible to all students regardless of their circumstances. So we do have hotspots for those students that lack internet access at home. We do have assistive technologies. We have software that with extensions that offer text-to-speech, text customization, as well as translation tools that the students can utilize. We also focus on enhancing operational efficiency through technology. That means we're just trying to get make things easier for everyone. So improving administrative processes, enhancing communication within our department, and also cloud-based solutions where the students can interact and collaborate and learn through collaboration. That's a huge learning tool. One of my, or our next steps is I'm looking at a Chromebook retrieval plan. Instead of letting the Chromebooks go home, speaking with some other districts have them go home over the summer, perhaps keeping them in-house and looking at what that would look like. That saves us a lot and reduces loss or damaged devices, also allows the department time to update them, have them ready to go at the beginning of the school year. So we don't have that lull where you're updating the first week of school whenever it brings them in. In conclusion, our district's committed to building a future-ready education system. By investing in technology, we empower students and educators to succeed in an evolving digital world. We appreciate the support of the school board and the community as we continue these important initiatives. Any questions?
So as you can see, there's not a lot of dust settling underneath her feet. There's a lot happening. So thank you, Leah. I appreciate the update, and we'll have you back in a few months and see what else is happening in technology. Okay. And finally, buildings and grounds. Let's hear what's happening from a buildings and grounds perspective.
First of all, I want to thank Leah. She is awesome in our school district. She really is. She's never, always smiling when you have a problem. So, yeah, it's awesome. So, and with that, Leah's been helping out with the update of the audio enhancement. And we turned it on last week, Wednesday, I believe, Wednesday or Thursday. So every room buzzes when the bell goes off and they all hear the announcements and everything. With the exception of the speakers for the CTE classes were not in. They were updated and they got back ordered. And I do believe I see them in the custodial room this morning. So they should be going up soon. And the outside ones as well. So them are still waiting for them to get put up. I know they're all wired. He said they just need to hang the speakers and work them in, and they'd work just like the rest of them, so hopefully. So elementary school, they are pulling wires, putting speakers in. A little tougher over there with the false ceiling being so short, not as much room to work, but they're moving right along. So didn't really get a good update from them on how that one's going. They just said, yeah, this one's harder. I'm like, that's great. So I will touch base with them, make sure see what's going on for the next one, so. And I know it's so nice out that everybody forgets about how cold it was here about 3 weeks ago, but we were in a meeting and we could not get water to go away at the elementary school. And finally I called the city out and they were looking at it, and they actually went out on Burr Street and it was froze. So they went in, and I've got a picture on my phone, on my computer, I did not send it, but they did go in with the jetter from Burr Street and went up. And it was froze on the end, and the reason they think it was froze is because of all the roots they did pull out. And they are requesting that we have, when the jetters come out in the city, they come out every summer. He says they really feel that we should have them go up them sewer lines and have them do that to pull all them roots back out. He goes, because they pulled out, it was like 2 5-gallon pails of just solid root.
So the drain tile is froze yet?
No, so it was plugged because the water couldn't get away fast enough.
Okay.
So it was trickling through that root, and then the end kept building and building where it goes down into the manhole. So they blew through that right away, but then they kept going as long as hose they had. And then they basically hit that tree in the playground. And that's where the roots kind of came from, because it stopped and it was jerky, and then they pulled it back, and then all the roots came out the end. And so they did get a bunch, and it works now.
Yeah.
So everything's fine.
How old is that tile? We don't know. But they have tools now that
You can coat them.
bore through that. That's pretty amazing.
Yeah, and they can coat the tile like we did here at the high school. If it's clay and collapsing, they can run that coating or that, I don't know, that ceramic in the inside of the tile, so it's like brand new if you need be. So the roots can't get through and stuff. And they did recommend that when they do that, they can actually camera. So when they go in with the roots, they actually have a camera, because the city has some of them done, and they can show footage of what, and then you can make your decisions on actually what the camera is showing.
Not to mix you up too much, but going back to your thing with the electronic sound system.
Yeah.
At the high school here, would you say you're 80% done?
Oh, well, I would say more than that.
90?
Yeah, I would say they've got 25 speakers to put up.
Okay.
I'm not sure how many we decided on outside.
Okay.
Wiring's all there, they just gotta hang the speakers and hook them up.
So then go back to the elementary school. I can understand that being a challenge because of the older facility. You're at what, 20%?
Oh, I would say they're farther than that with pulling the wires.
Okay.
Once the wires are in, then it goes pretty quick.
I'm sorry, that's.
Yeah, so.
Okay, thank you.
And then, the other thing I'm struggling with is the exhaust motors on the roof seem like all of them are, and I had them checked this summer, so they had a lot of them going to the electric motor service to get rebuilt. The fans just quit running and lock up, seize up the bearings or whatever. It just seems like a lot of them. I had none last year really. And then this summer, I think I fixed two throughout the summer when I had them go check. They had 2 of them that were tight, and now all of a sudden we got 2, 3, 4 of them going out, so.
Oh, they were polite. They were just waiting for you to get used to it.
We don't want dust under his feet.
Yeah, so, any other questions, comments, concerns? So,
When we have our next committee meeting, I'd like to talk more about that sewer. Roots won't go away.
no, but they said with that ceramic, it actually prevents them from going in.
I think
If
we
we
should
need it.
address that, because otherwise we're just Band-Aiding a solution here. Stuff like that kind of needs to just go away.
So,
And
yeah.
probably look at a plan to figure out how to resolve it.
Yeah, well, I made note of that.
Perfect.
Sounds.
Anything else?
Thank you, Ken.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
All right, we'll move on to budget revision.
So I'm gonna pull up a budget presentation. So this will look familiar because it's the same format as what was approved. And what I've done is I've just added green narrative notes. Maybe. And you'll see if you click on the link, the budget revision is the document that's that will be what's presented at the end of the month. But what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna walk through each of those items throughout the rest of the presentation. So let me just go back here. Reshare that again. All right. So a couple of things. So you'll notice that the revised budget is based on 892 ADMs, which the original budget was built on 899. So we are down a few students, which does certainly impact our general revenue. So this is where I've kind of, you'll notice the green are with the revised notes. So as I mentioned, I'm sorry, the original, the gen ed revenue was calculated on 899 ADMs. And this revised budget, it has 892. When we developed the budget, we were talking about a slight increase to title funding. I'll be really honest with you. I'm watching our title funding, our special ed funding. I'm watching a lot of that really closely because that's all tied to the federal Department of Education. As we kind of navigate the landscape at the federal level, those are some things that we really need to be mindful of and pay attention to. Because if those funding streams change, it'll have a pretty significant impact at the state level and at the local level. For us, our title and kind of comes down to the cross subsidy aid. That's around our special education programming. Our special education cooperative or our West Central Education District, all of our federal funding flows through that entity, and that's where a lot of our services are paid for. So again, there's no financial caveat added to that right now, besides the fact that it's something that is a big blip on my radar that I'm watching to see what actually happens. Okay. Any questions on that? I know there's been some conversation about. And I saw memos come out early or late last week about elimination of, and then it kind of was scaled back. So any questions on that before I move on?
Yeah, I got one.
Yeah.
Worst case scenario, let's just say all of our federal funding dries up.
Mhm.
How long would we have to act till our budget's in the red? Like, is it not a year or two to come up?
No, Jacob, I'm gonna have to look into like what the actual dollars, what makes the answer to that question really difficult is our integration with our education district, okay? Our special education director, which is a required position, is shared through the West Central Education District. That's paid for out of federal funding. Our school psychologist is paid for out of our federal funding. Our occupational therapists, which are shared services, they're paid for out of federal funding. So it's hard for me to say like, this is what the actual like instantaneous impact would be. But it carries a lot of nuances to that. Like, so it's a little bit more integrated because of our relationship. Now, the relationship with our education district was built around being financially frugal, right? Because they provide positions that we don't need full-time positions, so we're able to buy portions of, right? So all of that though kind of comes into a federal implication. There's a non-answer to an answer, right? Or an answer to a non-answer. It's not super simple.
You can't just give me a straight number.
I can't. I can tell you what and I will get that for our business meeting at the end of October. I can tell you what our federal allocation, like if we weren't part of a district would be, and I can tell you what that would be. And I'll combine that with our title funding. Yep.
My understanding is federal government was just gonna pay direct to the states and have them manage the money. And the fat they're trying to cut out of it is a whole department that appears not to be as efficient as they'd like. I've not seen a thing that would make me concerned about the states.
We'll see.
Because most of this all funnels through the state anyway. And everything I've read said that they're not topping the funding. They're trying to get rid of a great big department that appears not to be doing anything because they funnel it to the states anyway.
And we'll see how it actually transpires. You know, there's been a multitude of, I've heard a multitude of conversations, including that.
Yeah.
So we'll see how it transpires, but I'll get you that information for the next meeting. Okay. So from an expenditures, when we developed the budget, you're gonna see that, what we took into consideration, one of the revisions, and it actually is, it saved us a little bit of money, but our social work variation, when our social worker was contracted through the West Central Education District, and we were hoping to hire that position directly. Mrs. Akerson talked a little bit about Victoria Shea at the elementary. We have a comparable position over at the secondary, but she was an employee of the West Central Ed District. We weren't able to hire that position, and the West Central Ed District was able to hire. So we were able to buy that time back from them. So it actually is a little bit of a cost savings for us because she was a less expensive employee than the previous employee that we had. The next area that you're going to see some green and some changes and considerations is that budgeting for our roofing, our needs. So again, we secured the bid last board meeting. The bid was approved, and we're moving on within the budget. So that's a good news for us. I want to remind you that door 7 and door 8, where the building envelopes were fixed, that wasn't planned for in our budget. Okay, but again, if you're the reminder of those, the posts that had rusted out at the bottom and the awnings were sinking. So those were taken care of out of our building maintenance funds. Okay. The bond repayments, so there was a slight reduction to the revenue that we received from the state. And that's really because when we levy for our bond payments, we can only have 105% of that money in the fund balance. And when we have more than that, they withhold money. Okay, so that's what's happening for the adjustment in that fund. Okay. So some variables. So if you remember, we had shifting of our 4 sections of kindergarten. We had 4 sections of first grade. And then we had an influx of 4th graders that moved in over the summer, along with some high needs. So I did recommend to the board that we add a 4th grade teacher. So that addition is reflected within the revised budget. You're going to notice that our unemployment costs have been accounted for. So our total summer unemployment costs for last year were $42,416. So again, the district received some reimbursement for that. It hasn't been the full reimbursement yet. They did an initial survey of what we thought we were going to have for expenses, and then they did a portion of that payment. And now as the books are settling up across the state, they'll make the final payments over the course of time. But the money that we will get for, unless money is allocated in this year's legislature, we're going to be responsible for those costs.
It was only a short time there, but I'll pay for it.
Yep. So you're also going to notice that we continue to be in the planning process for the softball field and track. The land survey has been underway, and we are having ongoing conversations. The first field will be the softball field, I anticipate, but one thing to keep in mind is when you're doing projects like that, it can make some sense to have the land equipment, the dirt moving, all of the things that have to be done. The committee will have to talk about the value of doing more at one time versus staggering over the course of years. And that's going to be an ongoing conversation within the facilities committee.
That's come up every time it's come up, the track.
The track, yep. Well, and the track.
The issue, just a quick issue I have is we still haven't accomplished the girls softball park.
Right.
We've always brought all these other things into it and it goes away. We have to prioritize that park gets some precedence over all this.
Right.
But every time it comes up, we start there, then all of a sudden we're supposed to bring it in because the efficiencies of people being here and it gets wiped out because it's used up somewhere else and the girls don't get anything.
Yeah, and I can say that we've had a more productive conversation around the softball field this year
Yes,
than we've had over in previous years. So I think it's something to consider. But to your point, Bruce, I don't think it should not stop the project. Like, it's something to consider putting football and track into the same conversation, but it should not stop the project. Yep. So this is the biggest impact to our budget. We're gonna stay in the call. But I'm super excited. As you heard both Leah and Ken talk about our audio enhancement, we were able to move forward to get that project moving. And we were able to do that because we have a healthy fund balance. And what we were able to do is we used $137,000 of the tech levy, and then $445,000 came from the designated for operating capital. What that will allow us to do is over the course of time in the next couple of years, we'll be able to pay for some things that have been covered out of the tech levy. We will covered out of operating capital. We'll be able to pay for those out of the tech levy and allow that money to be rebuilt to put back into the district funds for the projects that need to be taken care of. And why I think that is so important is because we were able to save about $60,000 to $65,000 on that project by doing it at the timing that we did. And then we were also able to make sure that we have interconnected communication throughout our entire building. And that was really important from a safety perspective. And I would also suggest that our teachers are reaping the benefits of the audio enhancement systems at the secondary already. And I'm excited to hear how that happens at the elementary once they're fully integrated and ready to roll. So that's something that we've got on our, that I think the board and the district should be proud of because of the opportunities that we've had and some frugal planning over the last couple of years. We are watching, so the kindergarten registration, you'll see that I don't have an actual number in there. I've got, as Mrs. Akerson talked about, we were up in our registrations. We are going to, as the budget predictions and development comes forward, I will put a more solid number in there, but I'd like to give it a little bit more time to let those come in and so we can be a little bit more stable. And I do think, when we developed the budget, we were actively talking about passing the tech levy. And I think it is important for us to continue to take a minute and thank our community. If we did not have the assurance of that tech levy revenue coming in, our audio enhancement system would not have happened this year. And I think that's a really important thing to acknowledge and to recognize. So those are some of the key items within the budget, and you'll see how that has impacted the bottom dollar and where our budget is. Again, we're hoping to increase our ADMs from and bring more of those in versus having a revised number lower in the future. But with a strong kindergarten grouping, we're optimistic. So there is no action that's required on this, but I would just stand for any questions that any board members have.
Any questions? Okay, move on to access application review.
So we have been talking about our multi-tiered systems of support and how our students have been responding to the reading interventions that have been provided. That's all part of our ADSYS program. So I'm going to pull up the application and kind of let you see what this looks like. So ADSIS stands for the Alternative Delivery of Specialized Instruction Services. And really what this is this is saying that we are going to have a proactive approach to try to intervene. And when you think about how our reading program has been working, we're identifying students that have a skill deficit and a gap, and then there's a targeted intervention to improve those skills and close that gap. We've not had a structured conversation around math to this point. So our ADSIS application is a 2-year application. And within this program, you can have math services that are modeled in the same way as your reading services. And so because the application is due for 2 years, I did, through conversation with our MTSS team, our multi-tiered systems of support team, at both the elementary and the secondary, we talked about our math data, and we talked about what would it take to be feasible to start mirroring that intervention program with math. So this application is written to expand the multi-tiered systems of support into math, okay? So I'm gonna just scroll down a little bit. I'm gonna make that just a little bit bigger here, if you don't mind. There we go. So, and what this is, again, this is a template that all districts that wanna be part of the ADSIS program have to address, okay? And this is how we've received our funding for the reading portion of our ADSIS program, okay? And so it also is how we've funded some of our positive behavior intervention supports and the behavioral support that we have partnered with our elementary reading interventions, okay? So this is just kind of the data about who our team is. And I'm gonna just kind of scroll through, because a lot of this is background from our previous year's applications, okay? Can you just remind me, have you seen this application before in previous years, or have you never seen this?
I don't recall it.
Okay, so you're gonna see that a lot of information, they ask for a lot of data, okay? So we have to provide our information about our reading scores, about our special education services, our enrollment. So you're going to see all sorts of that background information that they request and they require, okay? And then what they start doing, so as a preemptive kind of, I guess maybe I'm gonna pause just for a second. ADSIS is the funding that we receive through ADSIS it flows through part of our special education allocation. And it is a reimbursement program, which means just like special ed, we spend the money on the staff member, and then in the following year, they reimburse us based on the special education funding formula, okay? ADSIS is like a subset of that program. Okay, so you're gonna see references to our special education service model, because that's part of like how many students are you serving? And ultimately, their understanding and their focus of this program is early intervention to reading, math, and behavior. Over the course of time, will lower our special education referrals. Okay, and I would say we've seen not only have we seen fewer referrals, but I think we've seen better referrals into like the special education program, okay? So you've got some special education narrative in there, and then it comes in and it starts asking about for each school that will be implementing ADSIS, create a SMART goal for special education referrals. Again, our hope is that we have fewer referrals because we have a more robust intervention delivery model before kids have to be referred for special education.
I may be missing something. Define referrals a little better.
Okay, so a referral means that a parent or a staff member thinks that a child should be assessed for special education. So they refer them through a team of people that look at, we should try this first, we should try that second, and then if that doesn't work, then we're going to conduct a special education evaluation. Is that helpful? Okay. All right, so then they really talk about what does the district have as an established multi-tiered system of support, MTSS. You've heard this a number of times throughout what the data and the presentations that our principals and the staff have given you, right? So, and we do have an established program, okay? So it comes down, and this describes how we're using our intervention time for reading, and it talks about all of the things that we're coordinating to make sure that we're not working in silos. Okay, Bruce, one of the things that we've talked a lot about is how we are coordinating what's happening through our achievement and integration plan, our title plan, and our multi-tier systems of support. That's one of the requirements, and that's one of the things that this plan asks us to do. Tell us how you're working to make these things all kind of work together. So there's a lot in here that people can look at, but this is, I don't want to get too far in the weeds. I just want to give you enough. So if you have questions, please ask, but I don't know how much you want to know or don't know about.
But basically, we would apply for this grant, and if that comes, we may have to pay a salary out.
Mm-hmm.
The goal would be to hire somebody to assist instructors and everybody with a little more time dedicated specifically.
To math.
Okay.
Yep.
So
if I
then
scroll to
they
the
would
bottom,
reimburse us a year later. So in essence, the only issue that I see could arise, that person ends up adding to the contract.
Yep.
Teacher's contract.
Yep.
If we hire somebody new after that, they could bump them out if the program goes away. Isn't that how that works?
Well, it would depend. I mean, if we would, so the long and the short of it, and I'll just, right here is the mathematics portion. In our previous applications, we've not had this, okay? So board members, if you want to look at what this looks like, scroll down to like question 29, okay? In short, Bruce, what we did is we wrote the program to hire a teacher to focus on math interventions. And that would be a new position to our district, okay? And what that would do is, now I don't know if this will be approved or not, but we wrote the application in case it is. We can underspend our ADSIS application. We could never overspend it. So if they approve it and we decide, you know what, we're not quite ready, we need to wait for one more year to add that math position, we could do that. But we couldn't do it if we didn't have the application approved, okay?
But the goal is if everything works, it would be somebody that we wouldn't have disappear from the systems. We would just employ them because our scores are going the right direction for mathematics in our high school.
Yep. So the plan would be that we, and for the district, we would have to build in that position for next year. And then the following year, we would get reimbursed, and then comes into our formula for our cross subsidy reduction aid. And dependent on, and I don't want to get too far in the weeds of the special education funding formula, because we fall under one of three, which will tell us what percentage is reimbursed immediately versus what goes into the cross subsidy reduction. But we may post this and somebody internally could say, you know what, that's my jam. That's what I really want to do. And they could be assigned to that position and we could open up a different position, right? It really kind of depends. But until we hear from ADSIS, if that program is approved, I just wanted to put that out as a possibility, knowing about the conversation that we've been having over the course of time with our reading scores. And I've had not only at the board level, but I've also had at our district advisory committee. What about math? right? We've been having that question of what about math?
For a long time.
So this is the what about math conversation, okay? So the reason I put this application in here is so that you could all kind of see how it was developed to be similar to what's happening within the reading program, okay? Again, this doesn't require any action today. This is just a conversation so that people are aware of what's happening.
I think it's great.
So
We can get this
Hopefully-
rolling. We kind of, in essence, have only a period of time. We have to bear the total cost of it. And our students are going to be the beneficiaries.
Because at some time, somebody's gonna come back, because I know when the read thing happened, or as far as our reading scores are so low, I think math was kind of in there. So at some time, it's gonna come down. Now it's time to start hitting math, and we really want to be ahead of the ball wave on that. That's the other question I have. So it's a 2-year program. We apply for it. Does that mean that every 2 years, if we want to continue with it, then we reapply?
correct.
Okay.
I don't know if I ever told you, maybe told the whole board, but I was on the board when we had to really get a grip on the budget.
Mhm.
And I was responsible after lots of questions to Bob Hewitt that we were shooting ourselves in the foot when we cut a 6-hour math away from 3 instructors. And my interpretation has been, it's been an issue ever since. That's 12 years ago. This can make some of that go away, but we didn't have any choice. There was nothing we could do, but it was frustrating because like I told Bob, we are shooting ourselves in the foot here, and we did.
So this would be a step to supporting math scores and math,
Great.
not just the scores, but really our students' ability to navigate complex math.
Non-draft calendar review.
So I had forgotten that Cheryl wasn't going to be able to be here this evening, but so our meet and confer, which is between the certified staff and administration and Cheryl and myself, have been meeting about the draft calendar. And this has been an extensive collaboration. There's been a lot of conversation. It looks very similar to this year's calendar from a 2-hour late start. There was a lot of conversation about trying to be responsive to parents with not having like a quarter break day in the middle of the week, trying to have some, being mindful of having longer weekends for those quarter break days. So what you see here is a summary of all of the information. And it's just out as a draft again, so that people know that it's in the works. I've had a number of individuals who have been that coordinate services with our school districts looking for this information. So I wanted to get it out. And before it comes to the board for final approval, we have lots of eyes look at it. We have especially our administrative assistants, they always have a tendency to catch the things that maybe just like are technical errors, right? So I just in concept wanted to get this out for the board to kind of take a look at. Ron, you had a great question of, is there any way we could just get it done before Memorial Day? It's just really, really tricky.
Do you have to have, what's the purpose of a quarter break day? Do you have to have one?
It's contractual. Yep. Yep, and it's intended for grading and preparation for the next quarter. Okay, so it's there to take a look at, and if there's any questions, feel free to reach out to myself or one of the principals, or if teachers can reach out to individuals on the calendar committee. But it'll come to the board for approval at the end of March.
Well, knock on wood, at least we're not going into June.
Correct.
But if you have a lot of flex days, but we gotta get through this year first.
You betcha.
Well, one of these days, Memorial Weekend's gonna move towards the end of the month, and we're gonna make it.
And then we'll be there. It is hard when Memorial Day is really early.
Yeah.
It's just like when Labor Day is really late, and so all of those things, and those are just variables that you can't really control.
So compared to where you were last year, were there any problems you're trying to resolve Because I've not heard a word. That I think last year went out pretty smooth.
Yeah,
Almost everything that we're doing.
no, I have not received extensive feedback about anything negative. I've not had any, again, the calendar was really built around this year's model because it's been fairly smooth. Okay. We did really take into account things such as the quarter break days midweek versus end of the week. We also took into account preschool screening and having on a 2-hour late start that our preschool can continue to do screening. There are 2 days that you're going to notice early outs, and those 2 days are the day before Christmas and the last day of school. Okay, and that just seems to make some logical sense for multiple purposes.
Yep.
It does.
That makes sense.
Okay.
Sounds good.
So take a look at that, and if there's any other questions, let me know. Otherwise, it'll just come back to the board for approval at the end of March. I almost said May,
I know.
but it is not May. It is the end of March. Yes.
All right, moving on, request for information and roundtable.
I would just like to make a comment, and it's a big thank you. Being the chair for the Paynesville Community Service Center, the food shelf, I want to thank Cassie and Jesse for really pushing it over at your sites and bringing in food donations and helping us out over there. So it does make a big difference. I know Allison over there gets excited this time of year, especially as she goes over to the elementary schools. Thank you so much. Thank you, Jen.
Anything else? All right, moving on. Closed session pursuant to attorney-client privilege. I would entertain the following motion from a board member.
Pursuant to the attorney-client privilege in Minnesota statute section 13B.05 subdivision 3B, I move to go into closed session to receive confidential legal advice from the school board's attorney and to discuss litigation strategy with the school board's attorney regarding a pending legal claim involving a student.
Motion made by Director Spanier,
Yes, second.
second by Director Corport. All in favor?
Aye.
We'll move into closed session at 7:02.